Once in your life you might need a policeman, once in your life you might need a lawyer, once in your life you might need a doctor. But 3 times a day, every day, when you sit down to eat, you need a farmer. And that is it.
So when it comes to farming in Ireland, I think, no offense, the profile of a farmer is somebody who's kind of getting on in years. You know, it seems like something that the younger generations haven't taken to in the same way that older generations might have in previous years. What has attracted you to farming as a profession and a vocation?
You know, at times I second guess myself to wonder, did I make the right decision? For the simple reason that when you demonize a profession / vocation, and when you demonize it, it's not attractive for the younger people. The younger people are being constant. You know, the media is throwing consistent battery on farmers. You know, it's not. You know, it always seems to be the farmer. I love the term farmer bashing, which is unfortunately is a term now. You know, and a young person wanting to make a positive difference. Although, in order to make a positive difference and change every aspect of farming, be it around the greenhouse gas emissions and water quality and all these, you know, topics that we can drive change in. A younger person is a lot more open to change in their practices than an older person. I've been attracted to it thanks to Macra. I've seen all the benefits being part of a community, but also, you know, a huge thing that we're losing in this country and across Europe is we're not standing up and being counted. And if you were to look at the age profile across Europe and Ireland, you know, Ireland is a lot higher, but across Europe, I think the average age of a farmer is 51 or 2. So, like, that's not acceptable. How do you teach farmers to change their ways in order to have a more positive impact? Like, it's a huge topical. It's very topical at the moment, but it's a huge discussion that has to be had openly across the board.
Who do you think is driving the demonization of farmers? Because of course we see billboard campaigns that paint farming in a negative light and portrays it as catastrophically bad for the environment, and we hear all of these different calls from NGOs and various different organizations. Where do you think this is coming from?
Well, unfortunately, I think a lot of it is driven by headlines. I think a lot of stuff can be taken out of context, and that drives uncertainty in the farming sphere, which actually pits farmers against each other, which isn't, united, we'd strive, but divided we fall. And that's just, predominantly across all sectors. You don't see any subsectors being pitted against each other as much as farmers. There's an awful lot of people now sitting back, giving out about everything. But lads and ladies, I'm sorry to tell you, if you sit back and give out, you're not going to make a change. You know, you're only going to make yourself, a negative person, which isn't the answer either. So it's very important to be proactive, not be reactive, to ensure that you have your voice heard. And if you have something to say, say it. But like, Twitter sometimes isn't the best option, or X, or whatever one you call it. If you wouldn't say it to someone's face, don't say it behind a keyboard. And I think that alone, along with some negative headlines, and along with some, farmer bashing, like the real issue, a huge thing, to tell farmers to reduce their emissions by 30%, that's understandable. But what about reducing food waste by 30%, which the current food waste level in Ireland at the moment is 30%. So that just cancels it out. So why is it me, the farmer? Maybe it's the consumer that needs to look at things. Everybody needs to work together, and that's the fundamental, if we don't work together, we're not going to last. And in order to make a change, you have to be able to stand up and be counted. But this keyboard warrior stuff, this sitting back negative headlines, yeah, sure, it sells papers, it sells, clickbait, whatever, great. But it doesn't, fundamentally it divides. And what we're seeing across the world now, unfortunately, is we're a world that's becoming more and more divided as the days go on. And it's just, if you were to look 20, 30 years down the line, that's going to be detrimental and have a devastating impact on every country, not just Ireland, every single country.
What role do you think farming plays culturally in the identity of Ireland? So putting the economics aside, of course, it's a livelihood for many people. They needed to pay their bills, and it's critical from that perspective. We all know that. But what do you think it plays in the actual character of this country?
I'm from Mayo, Clare Morris, right? To hell or to Connacht, I'm still there. I love it. And quite frankly, at times it can be like heaven. And at other times it can be like hell. Because I have seen more young people drive out, leave our country. Farming is the backbone of our economy. And unfortunately, an awful lot of people inside the M50 think that that's not the case. As I was talking to a girl before, I said, "Oh, where does the milk come from?" And she said, "Oh, the doorstep." I was like, so there's a serious disconnect. What we need to do is bridge the gap, ensure that people that don't understand our food production, everybody understands food consumption. I was in the European Parliament last week, and I was discussing. I just had a bit of a brainwave, and something perhaps was regurgitated. But it was like, once in your day you might need once in your life you might need a policeman. Once in your life you might need a lawyer. Once in your life you might need a doctor. But 3 times a day, every day, when you sit down to eat, you need a farmer, and that is it. And once we can understand that, how reliant we are on farmers, and to be honest, farmers do it for the love of it. There's not a lot of money out of it. The majority, I know headlines are saying we're all millionaires. Maybe I'm not. I'm doing it for very little, but I'm feeding people. And sometimes the people that are driving this rhetoric don't understand when they sit down to eat a burger that there you go, it's coming from Connacht. It's coming from my farm. All the cattle are looked after like they're my children. Every single one of them. When one of them is sick, I feel sick. You know what I mean? It's the empathy. Farmers are empathetic. That perfect, beautiful speech they had, that God made a farmer. Someone that can wake up in the morning and have the colt and pull it out of the mare and watch it die and wipe the tears from his eyes and say maybe next year. That's what it's all about. Farmers are very, very adaptive, and we can adapt, but we need to work together. And it's not just farmers, it's everyone. Everyone that consumes milk, beef, dairy, even vegans and that, they're all consuming farmed products. So as soon as they can realise that, I think the world would be in a better place.